been lied to. The British people have been lied to. And sometimes lies can have disastrous consequences.
Hotels housing asylum seekers set on fire. Mosques and immigration centres targeted nationwide. Violence, racist attacks, looting. Police overwhelmed, injured. Communities terrified. A wave of unrest started after an attack at a Taylor Swift dance class in Southport, but fuelled by racist misinformation.
They are scenes that are now happening daily. It felt unpredictable, confrontational and tense. Some were filmed taking a piece of scaffolding, apparently to use as a missile. Here, as elsewhere, a number of officers were injured.
But is it possible that some of the things that you heard in the media about immigration, is it possible that it's not actually true?
All the police made public about the attacker was that he was 17 years old and from Cardiff. Now that's for legal reasons. That's when misinformation floods the zone. The online speculation started pretty immediately, specifically anti-immigrant sentiment. You can see it here. There's this big rise. One ex-account drove that conversation in particular, saying the attacker was alleged to be a Muslim immigrant. We know that is not the case. Now, this account is followed by Andrew Tate. Later, Tate posts this, calling the attacker an illegal migrant. Again, completely incorrectly. It's online misinformation being seized on by a more organised online right. The result on the streets is chaos and violence.
But we're looking again, I would quite confidently predict, at hundreds of people again today coming through the port of Dover illegally.
They are saying that 703 migrants were detected crossing the English Channel yesterday.
Nearly 500 migrants crossed the English Channel on small boats on Saturday.
Now, I'm not saying that those numbers are fake, but here are some conversations with some real people that live in Dover.
You're closer to France than just about anywhere else.
Does that come with a lot of immigrants coming into Dover?
I mean, that's all in the media and stuff like that. You don't see it.
We've lived here for 10 years.
Yeah.
I've never seen any boats landing.
Really?
But I think if you read the press, you'd be convinced
that
it was like constant, like. But
we never see any boats being escorted in.
Moving back to Dover, one of his comments, but why do you want to go there? It's full of illegal immigrants. Well, can you see it?
People have the idea, oh yeah, Dover is full of migrants. We don't see them.
Okay, that's really interesting. I wonder.
We don't see them.
The truth is complicated though. Some people said that they had seen immigrants arriving. Some people said they do arrive, but then they're shipped off immediately in buses. But through this documentary, I will try and uncover a huge amount of misinformation and in some cases lies, because I believe that sometimes misinformation can be truly dangerous.
The politicians, they don't seem to want to fix anything.
You can't. You can't get rid of them. They're coming in here, they're coming in every day here. They're coming in 300 or 400 or 500 a day.
Jail deportation. I'm not opposed to immigration in any way.
They are racist.
Okay.
In a legalised form.
Legalised racism, you feel?
Yeah.
The UK it's dying.
The people we tend to see are all the economic migrants.
They all got foreign accents.
So you were mentioning earlier you walked past something?
Oh yeah, no, I was just walking to my workplace and there was a reform tent. And as lovely as they seemed, I just couldn't help but be a little bit scared.
How do you find life in Dover? Do you feel like Nigel Farage is a bit too extreme on immigration?
Yeah.
Today I'm in Dover and look at this. We're actually in the middle of winter, but yet it is actually a bright, sunny day, somehow.
Nice to meet you both.
Like Dover always gets like a really bad rap. It's a reputation like frequently of being like the worst place to live.
Why do you think it has that reputation for being the worst place?
It's just run down, I think.
Some people have been saying that maybe it's to do with immigration or something. What do you think of that?
No, I don't think that's got anything to do with it at all, really.
Don't think,
I would imagine not.
No? That's interesting.
Yeah. We've lived here for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I've never seen any boats landing. I mean,
Really?
But
No,
I think
no.
if you read the press, you'd be
I think
convinced
it's
that it was like
really.
constant, like. But
Literally, so I saw another documentary that was made in Dover, and they were talking about how it's like almost overrun with immigrants, and it's like in reality, you think like it's misguided.
You say you saw
One day in the
once
village, I was
waiting to
coming
be
home
picked
from
up by
work,
the police or something.
and there was, I don't know, half a dozen of them.
Yeah.
And it was the summer, and they were just for winter, so obviously they come across the cold channel. But they weren't. That was the only ones I've ever seen.
Overall, you think Dover's quite a nice place? Perhaps like some of the rumours that people have been saying about Dover are maybe not true.
Yeah, I mean, there are
It's
some
northern
very
areas,
deprived
but-
areas, definitely. There is quite a bit of disadvantage, but
Okay.
I don't think that's to do with migrants, it's just lack of investment.
If you look through the gap over there,
So the gap over there. Oh, so that little mountains, you can just about maybe see it. Oh yeah, there it is.
Up onto the cliffs, you get a really clear view of France. On a sunny day,
To go from Dover to Calais, it is well over 20 miles of perilous sailing. But to call it sailing seems like an overstatement. Migrants and asylum seekers are crammed into flimsy dinghies. They tend to travel at night, so they would be submerged in darkness with limited light. In winter, the temperature is often less than 10 degrees, but it is the wind chill that adds additional danger. As the water batters up against the raft, hypothermia is a constant threat. Nature can be brutal, and the waves stop for no one. If a migrant falls off the raft, they face a substantial risk of injury, drowning, or even being lost at sea. In fact, there was recently a boat that sank near Calais, but the sinister gangs that supplies the journey had only provided life jackets for half of the passengers. One person's life was lost, and the other 69 were brought back to France.
Thank you so much, honestly, both.
let's see
Really
it.
appreciate your time.
thank you.
It's a really beautiful day today. Do you live in Dover?
Yeah, I was born in Dover.
Oh wow.
A lot of people run Dover down, you know, saying what a dump it is and all that. But
Is it true that immigration's affecting Dover a lot?
it's on the TV, see the illegal immigrants coming ashore and all that. There's a lot of negative news about Dover.
Yeah.
But I think it was worse when the Kosovo War was going on.
Okay.
Dover sort of got overrun a bit with refugees.
Oh really?
The Kosovo War was fought between 1998 and 1999. Conditions were brutal. The population suffered from widespread ethnic cleansing, forced deportations, and mass killings. As Yugoslav and Serbian forces committed atrocities, thousands of people were forced to flee their homes. It is estimated that more than 800,000 people had to leave Kosovo as a result. Interestingly, it was public opinion that forced the UK government to set up the Kosovo Resettlement Programme. The people wanted to help. Thousands of people came to the UK, many of them struggling with the trauma of what they had been through. When the war ended, the majority of refugees went back to their homes in Kosovo.
But you hear about 600 illegal immigrants landed yesterday, but I don't know where they take them to. But they're not in Dover, they're not overwhelming the town.
That's interesting. So you don't really see it. In theory, there's all these numbers of like, okay, hundreds of people are arriving on our shores.
Yeah.
But in reality,
You don't see it day to day. No. The border force and the lifeboats, they bring them ashore. I think they get put on coaches and taken elsewhere. But it doesn't have a big effect on the town.
no. In your opinion, immigration within the town itself as well is not pulling it down or anything like that?
No, the impression given is worse than the situation. I mean, it is a national problem.
Sure.
It doesn't interfere with life in Dover.
On
as
day
such,
to day, yeah.
Just the people at the TV on and they see them all coming ashore and
Yeah, I think those kind of things spread quickly on social media, right? It's talked about maybe more than you would actually see the impact of that day to day.
yeah, when I said to her, relative in Scotland that was moving back to Dover. One of his comments was, "Oh, why do you want to go there? It's full of illegal immigrants." Well, can you see it?
Yeah, well, exactly, yeah.
I do feel something has to be done about immigration. It's not a major problem in Dover, put it that way.
One thing that I'm going to do, so every person that I interview and ask the questions about it, I will share their perspectives on it. That is regardless of what they say, what position they hold. I'm not going to cut someone out because I disagree with them. I will include everyone who shares their perspective on it that I interview. That will make it into the documentary.
Over there in the apartments.
Oh, I've been hearing about these. I've heard lots of people want to live there. That's what I've heard.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, 'cause a lot of them have balconies as well, right? Immigration affected Dover quite a lot, and I was curious on your perspective on that.
Well, it's happening.
Yeah?
It shouldn't be happening, but it's happening.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's like all these people that come to America. Trump has now got in and he's tried deporting them, hasn't he? Yeah. And his first plane load, his very first plane load, took off to go to Mexico, returning the migrants.
Already?
Oh yeah, yesterday.
Wow, he's only just got in.
They returned it.
Oh, did they?
They wouldn't allow it.
Donald Trump did indeed try and send military aircrafts with Mexican immigrants. A plane was rejected and sent back to him. Later, Trump would have migrants put in chains and led onto military aircraft, sending them to Guatemala. A picture of it occurring was released by the press secretary. Donald Trump clearly wanted to send a message. In fact, the press secretary literally said, "Deportation flights have begun. President Trump is sending a strong and clear message to the entire world. If you illegally enter the United States of America, you will face severe consequences."
Wow.
What I'm saying is this. I think that once you've got them, you can't get rid of them. You can't.
Okay.
You can't get rid of them. I mean, they're coming in here. They're coming in here. They're coming in every day here. They're coming in 300 or 400 or 500 a day.
Wow.
A day.
Wow.
Right? And once they're in, who's looking after them? The taxpayer.
Based on the most recent data over the last 7 days, there wasn't any days where 300 or 400 people arrived. There was only one day where boats arrived, and on that day it was 240. But if we look at the whole of 2024, the Home Office did report that 36,816 people crossed in small boats. That would equate to 100 a day, but that's not just for Dover, that's for all landing sites within the UK.
The taxpayer. And you can't get rid of them.
Hello?
Hello?
Glove.
Hello. No problem. It's
you want to get in the documentary on Dover?
You can be in if you'd like. It's about Dover.
You can have a chat about Dover.
I'm not from Dover though. I live here, but I'm not from
Dover.
Dover.
That's okay.
You can share your perspective.
Here. I'm not from Dover. I come from Ireland.
Right.
Right, but I live here. Where do you live?
Sorry, I've just thought I'd love to, but we've got a booking at a pub.
No problem.
So Dover's a good place.
Good. Dover's a good place.
And undervalued.
Underrated and undervalued. I've heard this from a lot of people. That's an interesting point.
Yeah, because an article in the Daily Mail about 2 months ago, it said that the properties in Dover were gone bad.
Yeah.
Down, down, down.
Yeah.
Worst place you could live.
Yeah.
Well, I don't agree. I think it's lovely to live here.
From what I've seen, it has been very nice.
I wonder why they have these ladders. Maybe my guess is that it's if someone ends up in the water, they have a way of getting out, I guess. Have a look. Have you been in Dover long?
On and off for about 45 years.
45 years, oh wow, okay. That's interesting that you came back, because that shows a lot. That shows that it must have some pretty nice
I love it here.
Okay, lovely.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, what's not to love?
When I was watching the previous documentary, and it was kind of suggesting that immigration had been affecting Dover a lot, but I was curious to ask your opinion of whether that is something that's been affecting Dover a lot. Or it has? Okay.
It has. It's about to, isn't it?
Sure.
It's got to.
In what way?
I think I don't want to say too much about it.
No,
because it's
you don't have
too
to.
contentious.
It's no problem. Well, whatever you feel comfortable, and if
No,
you don't
I
want to
mean,
say anything, you don't have to.
No, I'd rather not. It's
Okay, no
too
problem.
contentious.
No problem. No problem. Do you see a lot of immigrants in Dover? And don't worry if you don't want to answer it. You don't have to.
Yeah, we do. Before they built the curve, they call it, you could see the boats coming in with them on.
This is my backup.
That's okay. Nice mic.
Yeah.
Nice.
That does the job. I was actually talking about this with someone else earlier, what you were just mentioning before, about most people from the UK are probably immigrants themselves, whether it's from Scandinavia, the Vikings that moved across.
Yeah, or even in much more recent times, everyone's life has been touched by somebody who's come from a different country. I mean, it's important to hold on to the culture that enriches a place, but really, the more connected we are over the world and the more that we're exposed to different cultures, then the better a place can be. I mean, when we look at this country, it's gained a lot of good things from people who have migrated here, but also a lot of wealth from taking advantage of other countries. So that's my perspective. Coming to this country like very, very recently, and I don't know a lot of the more entrenched views here.
I think there's a mix from the people I've spoken to so far on this.
I don't know. I think that this country is growing at a pretty normal rate, isn't it?
The Office of National Statistics does predict that the UK population will grow to 72.5 million by 2032. So between mid-2022 and mid-2032, their predictions suggest that 9.9 million will move to the UK and 5 million will leave. Some people will be concerned that the housing shortage will not be sufficient for the additional 5 million people. And there's also concerns on the other side if immigration were to stop. By the middle of 2029, more people are predicted to be dying than to be born. This could create significant concerns for economic growth, but perhaps more importantly, there are concerns about who's going to care for the senior citizens as we would be seemingly moving towards an aging population crisis. And immigration tends to be younger people that immigrate, and therefore it helps solve that crisis.
You were saying before about the 600 people coming a day or something, and lots of immigration. Yeah. How is that affecting life in Dover? Do you see it a lot in the high street or whatever?
No, they take them away from here.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, they're in coaches. They're on coaches that day and taken away.
Okay.
Hotels in London and up north, even as far north as Manchester.
Yeah. So they get shipped out somewhere.
Shipped out. Yeah, we don't see them around here, People have the idea, oh yeah, Dover is full of migrants. We don't see them.
Okay, that's really interesting. I wonder...
We don't see them.
Yeah. So life isn't really affected that much because you don't see them around here. Have you ever seen boats coming in? I guess
every morning.
Every morning?
Yeah.
You've seen what the ones that you think are...
Yeah.
Where do you go to see them?
There,
do you see them coming in here?
Up there. Yeah.
How do you know?
That orange colour on the top.
So,
yeah, they're the ones. Yeah.
I spoke to a gentleman. He said you can tell because they're orange that they are the.
Well, that's a lifeboat, but it was the Coast Guard and Border Force.
And you see the people on it waving to the people as they go up there.
I mean, it was interesting. I spoke to someone earlier, and they said there's statistics that are theoretically saying 600 people are arriving per day. And then they also said, but actually we don't really see that, and Dover doesn't feel like that at all. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I have a passport, but my partner is an immigrant here.
Yeah,
and she's very, very happy to be here and very keen to contribute and to make the most of being in this quite exciting place that the UK is.
Good.
So yeah, I think open arms.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So you were mentioning earlier you walked past something?
Oh yeah, no, I was just walking to my workplace and there was a reform tent. And as lovely as they seemed, I just couldn't help but be a little bit scared and nervous around them, just because of what that party represents for the migrants of this country, for the people of colour of this country. Even their presence just unnerved me a little bit.
Do you feel as though they potentially hold racist beliefs?
I will not be on record saying
you do not have to
like
comment.
That.
You don't have to comment on that.
I'm sure there's lots of people who have said lots of things that they're associated with some pretty racist stuff.
Okay, but it was more that it unnerved you, it just made you feel uncomfortable, I guess, just seeing.
Well, no, because I know that gaining some steam in some certain ways, and it just makes me concerned for the near future of this country. But who am I to say?
Gotcha. No, thank you very much for sharing.
You're welcome, man.
It would be interesting if I can find this tent and actually speak to those people from the Reform Party. Like, I want to get a range of perspectives. So that would be pretty interesting if I can find that tent that he was speaking of. Let's see. I did manage to find the Reform tent. I think I found it. I think I found the Reform tent. So I'll go and speak to them and see whether they're interested in talking. So let me zoom it out a bit.
It's going to put me on the spot now.
No pressure.
That's the job you're going for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's great to meet you. What was your name?
Simon O'Dell.
Sorry?
Simon O'Dell.
Simon O'Dell, and I think you said you're running for
the Tower Hamlets council position.
In terms of policies, do you have anything in particular that you're particularly passionate about?
Basically, we're trying to sort of bring sanity back into politics. The politicians up there in Whitehall, they're all career politicians. There's no normal, real people there. I'm getting into this because it's the right thing to do. We're trying to sort of bring sanity back to politics. There's so many things going wrong in the country. The streets are filthy, dog mess everywhere. You can't get to see a doctor, you can't get to see a dentist. Everything's going wrong. The politicians don't seem to want to fix anything. They're just rubbish.
In terms of immigration, what's your thoughts on?
Right, okay, so we're against illegal immigration, but we're for immigration in general.
I have to point out, though, that this is not really the policy of the Reform Party. In their contract with the people, which is their word for a manifesto, they say that critical reforms needed in the first 100 days include a freeze on non-essential immigration. They also call for strict limits on immigration. Essential skills, mainly around healthcare, must be the only exception, it reads. So whilst this gentleman has a less extreme position on immigration, I don't think the Reform Party fully aligns with those views.
We need people to come in. It's healthy for society, it's good for genetic diversity and all that.
What was your opinion on Dover?
Well, I've lived here my whole life. I was born in the hospital when it was open. So I've been here 28 years nearly. It's all right. It's gone downhill a bit, and then it's come up a bit with the developments, with the shops and that.
Why does it feel like it's going downhill?
To be honest, mate, it's just the amount of immigration. It's just always here. Yeah, it's always the boats. You're always hearing hundreds of people every day, and that. It's I think just the locals have had enough of, obviously, more of the government really, but maybe job opportunities and stuff. There's not much to do around here, is there?
No.
A little bit boring.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you were saying as well about the few hundred immigrants arriving a day. Do you see that?
We've talked about this, haven't we? Because we live up there, so we get a look over to see it.
Really?
We never see any boats being escorted in and that, but it's just
that's interesting.
Every day you hear on the radio they're coming into Dover and that, and it's just like a few years back there was a couple who got escaped on the estate and tried going in someone's house, but I think it's more so that just the safety of people.
So it's like it's kind of scary when you hear it on the news, when you hear it on the TV, whatever.
Yeah, but when you actually got someone coming in your back garden, and coming into your house, I think that's what they reported. It's, it's a bit scary because you obviously don't know who they are and that. It's all right to live around here, isn't it?
Yeah, we've never had any problems, have we?
Where are you from then?
I'm from way further up north. The weather's nothing like this, to be fair. I think the weather, I'm surprised how good the weather is.
You've been
8 hours. You've been walking for 8 hours?
No.
Why?
8 miles.
Oh, 8 miles?
Yeah.
Why have you been walking for 8 miles? That's
I've gone all the way up to river.
Up to the river. How do you find life in Dover?
It's an interesting place. It's different. It's very, very quiet. You could live your life without the stresses of London. The community is safe.
Yeah.
People are quite friendly.
They've been really friendly, the ones that I've met. I saw a documentary that suggested that there'd been lots of immigration to Dover. I was curious to get your perspective on that.
Personally, it's hard for me to compare what it was before.
Sure. Because
I can only
been
go back
8 years.
Exactly. 7-8 years.
So in that time, what one has noticed is there are a lot of non-English individuals who've lived in the area because they tend to shy away and they don't talk. So if you're walking on the high street or you're going around, you tend to meet people who don't engage in any form. They don't look, they don't smile, they don't say anything. You could put it down to how that is actually impacting Dover. I probably am not in a position to be able to say that. My social life is very, very small, not a regular pub goer.
So would you say then probably it's not affected your life particularly much?
Not me at all. You see occasional people and you wonder, are these the immigrants that they talk about?
And have you ever seen, for example, people arriving on boats or anything like that?
No, I don't have time for that. I've never seen it. I've never taken the time to stop to look.
I myself, I'm married to a Filipino lady. My daughter is half Filipino. I would never support anything that's going to diminish my own wife's rights in this country, or my daughter's right. I just spent 10 years in the Middle East. I lost everything in the pandemic. I ended up back in the UK. Over there, it was Abu Dhabi. There's people from 200 nationalities. They go to the food courts, they all sit down and eat together. I got married in a church in the Middle East. They have Diwali and Ramadan, and there's Christmas trees in the mall. It's a model of multiculturalism that really does work. We need to learn some ideas from them. Their immigration system is so much more sane and sensible than ours.
What is it that's better about their system?
Okay, so they're not open to every country. They have their limits, but generally they're very open. As a British citizen, I was able to just go there, get a visa on arrival and start looking for work. Then I got hired and then I was able to stay. There's no route to citizenship for them, but they don't have any trouble having control over their own country and saying, okay, if people come here and they want to work and they want to contribute, then they're welcome, here's a visa, no problem. But if they're going to come over and commit crimes, then they have no trouble. Jail, deportation. They have these really high-tech border system. They take a retina scan, and if someone's been in their prison, they take a picture of their retinas and they're never coming back to the country again. They've got a model of multiculturalism that is really working well. Their streets are clean and safe, hardly any unemployment, there's hardly any crime. I was so impressed. I didn't even want to come back. I ended up coming back because of the pandemic. I lost everything, fell down to earth, and I come back and the UK it's dying, and Labour and Conservatives are not doing anything about it. They're just letting it happen. So we're just ordinary people. We've got to fight back in some way.
So have you been living in Dover long, or?
4 years.
How have you found it?
Quiet.
Quiet, yeah.
Isolating.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. A little pocket in a bubble.
What do you mean by that? That's quite interesting.
You're closer to France than just about anywhere else.
Does that come with potentially a lot of immigrants coming into Dover?
I mean, that's all in the media and stuff like that. You don't see it.
That's the interesting thing, because I've spoken to a few people that said that. They said that although we hear on the newspaper, on the TV, hundreds of migrants a day, but then in reality you don't see it.
You don't see them, no.
Which is very strange.
Well,
I don't know. Anyway, but okay, so that's not really a massive factor.
No,
so
not
I was curious,
at all.
what were you referring to when you were saying so it's quite very closest city to France? How does that affect Dover, do you think?
How does that affect Dover? Well, you just have to look around. There's no real infrastructure.
Okay.
It's very socially, economically poor. There's really not a lot in Dover. If you want the quiet life, it's brilliant.
Why do you think that is, that there's the economically struggling?
That's a conversation you need to have with the councillors.
Okay, you feel like the council
Because I think they're missing a trick. How many tourists come through Dover every day? Tourists want to spend money, and they're not spending it in Dover. The locals are very precious about their roads, and they don't want roads clogging up.
The traffic gets bad at times, you hear the sirens over there, and the French people are usually the people that cause it. They cause it. They make the congestion. A lot of congestion.
Builds up the traffic.
Build up.
Thank you so much for sharing.
No worries.
I really appreciate it. So I've been very much walking along the beachfronts and the piers so far. My plan now is to get in towards the city centre of Dover or the town centre and see sort of that side of it. Especially interested after that lady that I just spoke to was talking about how it has become run down and economically struggling. So just some, I guess, interesting news in terms of WH Smith. They're actually looking to sell all of their high street operations. And alongside that at the same time, so Sainsbury's is looking to close down 3,000 jobs as they close their cafes. What kind of problems do you think does immigration bring if there's too much? I guess it's not affecting Dover, but in theory.
It's not a good thing. You can be on this as well, mate. He's making a documentary. Yeah. He's making a documentary. What is it doing to the country? Well, it's no longer England, is it?
Okay, so more of a cultural thing?
Yes. It's no longer England. No way in the world. You walk uptown now, and what's the accents you can hear? Everybody I hear in the supermarkets, they all got foreign accents.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, Eastern Europeans, whatever. They're not English, no.
Do you feel like it wasn't like that when you were younger?
Definitely, oh yes, definitely.
No? So it's changed a lot?
Oh, it changed a lot. Changed tremendously, yeah.
So would you say that's probably the main thing? Just feels a little bit less like what it used to?
Yeah, it does. And the country, quite honestly, the country is getting too crowded. It's overcrowded. Of course it is. Look at it. Cars everywhere you go. Traffic jams everywhere you go. You can't park, you can't find a parking spot. That's the way it is. It's too many people, too many cars, yes. There's nothing you can do about it. I guess that's life.
Well, there'll always be challenges, won't there?
Always will, yeah. Well, I've got to go. I'm going
no problem at all, but I'll say thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me. Absolute pleasure.
Cold hands, mate.
Sorry, I don't have the gloves. I should probably wear some. But all the best, man. Thank you.
Okay.
The UK it's dying.
Do you feel like it's illegal immigration that is causing that?
No, I don't. Nigel generally promotes this. I don't agree with everything he says. I agree with a lot of what he says. You know,
yeah, sure.
I'm standing for the same party. I'm 99% on the same side. I would say, like, my mother was one of 9 children. If we were still having 9 children per generation, we would have this many people here anyway.
Yeah,
whether there was immigration or not. The problem is we're not building what we need to build. We're not funding the improvements that we need to fund. The people coming over and there's no space, and then we're getting overcrowded and everything's going to hell. We need to have like a sensible policy, like any sensible, normal country has of their border, and then we need to invest to account for the fact that the population is going to rise over time.
Yeah, what kind of things are you looking at? More housing?
Yeah. This is all national policy. I'm only standing for council elections, right?
Yep.
So I'm not heading for Parliament. Well, not yet.
Yeah.
Anyway. I would love to see, like, somewhere in the British territory, a brand new city being built. Something like Abu Dhabi or New York.
Yep.
It's a separate thing.
Yep.
And we could build a New York. We could build something awesome. But that's not going to happen with Labour and Conservative. They've got no ideas. They're just career politicians. They just go blah, 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 and everyone keeps voting for them. So we're standing here being something different.
It's being normal. It's not any sort of organisation that's extreme.
Gotcha.
That's it.
That's over.
What do you think would be the best? Do you feel like it would be best to like stop immigration, or to lower it, or just to end illegal immigration? I'm just curious for your thoughts.
I think people should be deterred from trying to cross the channel in crowded boats. I mean, some of them are drowning.
Estimates suggest that more than 78 migrants died crossing the channel last year, making it the deadliest year since records began.
So like very dangerous journey to make, especially if it's windy and the waves are big.
Oh yeah, and the weather can soon change. With immigration, I mean, you can't say put a stop to it altogether. Like they talk about building, what was it, 3.5 million houses. If we need bricklayers and things, then there's jobs for them.
Yeah.
And if we're short of doctors, and doctors want to come here, but you can't just have people pouring in. There's no housing, no jobs. The health service, the housing, everything's struggling at the moment.
Yeah, it sounds like a very balanced approach. Your thoughts on immigration is kind of like, okay, where are our shortages? And then people can come to our country if they're going to work in those shortage areas to help our economy.
When we first joined the EU, there was freedom of movement. It came to be a bit of a joke. You got a load of Polish plumbers and all that coming, but they were coming to work, you know, and put money into the kitty sort of thing, which is fair. I mean, we're short of workers, then we welcome tradespeople, professional people, but if you're not sure, then just sort of adding to the problem. I do feel sometimes when we bring in doctors and nurses, I think surely they're needed wherever they've come from. We try and sort of live a life, live and let live sort of thing, with a sort of common sense attitude towards it. I mean, some people, last Saturday and previously, there's a group that meet in the market square and they're sort of pro-immigration, or they chant, you know, refugees welcome here sort of thing. I think you've got to take a common sense view to it. You know, you can't have open borders. Germany and Sweden tried that and they're in right trouble.
Sweden was known in Europe to have very open borders. It came under pressure during the 2015 refugee crisis. According to the Federation for American Immigration Reform, 163,000 asylum seekers had come to Sweden at the peak in 2015. And there were challenges with taking so many asylum seekers in one go. The Federation references an attack from a fake asylum seeker in 2017 who turned out to be aligned with ISIS and had ignored a deportation order. He hijacked a lorry and drove it down a busy shopping street, killing 5 people and injuring 10. It should also be noted that immigration does not typically lead to increased crime according to some studies. A large study that in itself looked at 50 other studies found no link between immigration and crime rates between 1994 and 2014. Another study found immigrants to have lower rates of incarceration than other American citizens. This is likely because they are aware that committing crimes is likely to lead to them being deported. It also should be noted that there have recently been attacks in France, Munich, and Austria where asylum seekers seem to be involved. This is arguably important evidence that screening checks should take place to ensure that people coming across are not a threat. And yet again, on the other side, there was an attack in Sweden, but this time it was a Syrian refugee that was the victim, and he was described as a hero because he would regularly carry a man that had lost the ability to walk, and the man said that he felt like he had lost his hero.
If there's a job waiting for them and accommodation, then fair enough, you know. It's just a reflection of the sad world we live in. People feel they need to look for a better life elsewhere. The English are a mongrel race anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that is an interesting point, is like, yeah, we probably all came from France and wherever else,
Germany,
and some of us are Vikings from Scandinavia. Like,
you have to be careful expressing your views nowadays, because 100%. If you say immigration can be a problem, next minute, you know, you're getting called, you know, right-wing extremist or a Nazi or something like that. You know, there is a problem here, you know, you've got to face up to it, go about it in a sort of level-headed, sensible manner.
It's a pleasure as well to meet you, and thank you so much for telling me so much about Dover.
I spoke to a gentleman, he said you can tell because they're orange that they are the...
Well, that's a lifeboat, but there's it was the Coast Guard and Border Force. Where they were coming in, they had to put up a marquee or something because there were some people on the Westwood Heights at the top. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I can see them kind of behind you. Yep, some hills up there.
They were watching
down on Dover.
Watching the migrants coming in, so they put a marquee out so they couldn't be seen.
Okay.
It was a certain political party, I understand.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, fair enough.
But it is contentious.
I get you. I get you.
It divides people, doesn't it? Some people are dead against it and some people are all for it. So, like most things.
But this is what annoyed me about the documentary about immigration. Everyone that they spoke to seemed to have exactly the same perspective, which makes me very suspicious. In reality, where I just went out and spoke to lots of different people, I got a huge range of different perspectives. Everyone I spoke to had their own opinion on the issue. And the possibility that some documentaries could be like kind of manipulating what their findings are.
So thank you so much for sharing all of this. It was a pleasure. Sorry, my hands are cold.
Oh yeah, I've got them shutting the door. But,
no, it can happen. Yeah,
it did happen. It's quite painful, but
yeah.
Do you mind as well if I ask from your perspective as well, like immigration?
It's pretty much it's the rate and the quantity based on what can be provided.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people that are in genuine need of refuge just get caught up in the melee.
Right, okay.
The infrastructure needs to be expanded at the same rate as immigration. You can select the people that come here and then have some capacity for the people that genuinely need to seek asylum, who unfortunately at the moment are all bundled up with everyone else.
And which types of immigration would you like to see reduced? So asylum seekers is one side, you've got legal migration and you've got illegal migration.
Legal migration, I don't think anyone has a problem with, because the government sets those numbers, and if you don't like the numbers governments are setting, you can vote for a different party. In terms of the illegal migration, I don't know, it's just, I think it's overwhelming a lot of the services. Kent County Council are really struggling with unaccompanied juvenile illegal immigrants, and that's causing massive issues for the council itself. It's a problem.
What about asylum seekers? Do you feel like people should be able to climb asylum?
Yeah, asylum is great. I mean, we've always done it from the World War II Ukrainians, where there are issues, then yeah, people should be able to claim asylum in the UK.
Do you think that there's a misconception where people think that the Reform Party is against all forms of immigration, whereas potentially it's not, the Reform's policy is potentially not as extreme, or at least your belief?
There is a perception amongst a lot of people. We've had a lot of people coming past doing Nazi salutes.
Elon Musk was recently accused of doing such a salute.
And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
There was immediate backlash on social media. Some historians compared it to a Nazi salute. Musk posted on X, frankly, they need better dirty tricks. The everyone is Hitler attack is so tired. Musk's politics have increasingly shifted to the right. He's made statements in support of the British anti-immigration party Reform UK.
However, some people have argued that you didn't do that salute on purpose, that it was an accident.
And shouting, abuse. This is my first day down here. I've been surprised by two things. Firstly, how much support there is. It's massive support. The number of people that want to come over and talk about the issues. And then the other people, they'll shout something as they walk past. And you say, yeah, can you explain, do you want to talk? And they just carry on walking. Because it's it's a cheap shot. It's like, I want to shout abuse at someone, but I'm not prepared to actually explain why I think you're a racist, or why I think you're out of order. They just want to shout something. They don't want the discussion.
Captain, are you also running for office, or are you a volunteer?
No, I'm
just helping out?
Yeah, I'm just here to hand out some leaflets and just be a bit of support, because there have been incidents where people have sort of gathered and started sort of. So
like also kind of safety
support
as well. Yeah, gotcha. Friend, what was your name, buddy?
William.
I think you said that you're a Reform Party voter.
I'm going to be.
Why is that? What do you like about Reform?
Because I don't like the rest of them.
It's more that you've had enough of the other parties.
I've certainly had enough of Labour since they've been in. I grew the day they ever came in.
Really? Why is that?
They never have been. Never have been. There's two people I trust, Churchill and Thatcher.
So you would like the Conservatives. So why are you thinking Reform this time?
Immigrants.
Okay. Tell me about it. Or do you not like immigrants, or is it...
No, it's not that I don't like them. It's the fact that we're looking after them and not looking after ourselves.
Okay, so you feel like there's too much resources going on looking after immigrants, in your opinion?
Our old age pensions this year have gone without their winter fuel payment to look after those. And that's not fair.
So your opinion is you feel like there's too much being spent on potentially immigrants rather than other people. Do you feel like there's too much immigration in Dover?
Dover, Folkestone, Deal, Margate, wherever you want to look at it, it's just...
So you feel like there's too much immigration everywhere?
Overpowered.
So you're mostly from Essex, but you just moved to Dover.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on immigration?
I think it's good because it brings different like workers in.
Yep.
Which is good. More job opportunities, which is good because the job opportunities aren't that great.
So you think that immigrants coming in brings more job opportunities?
Oh yeah, and it helps with taxes. So it's good all round, I think.
Are you saying that because, like, as they work, they would bring in more tax revenue?
Oh yeah, which would obviously help the government and things like that. So yeah.
There's a Reform Party tent just down there. Yeah. What do you think of the Reform Party?
I don't know enough about them, to be honest.
Okay.
I've heard mixed signals. Some love them, some hate them. So I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it, to be honest.
And do you think that immigrants are good people or bad people?
A bit of both, just like we are. You know, you always get good and bad people, no matter who you are. So, you know, it just depends on the person, really.
Did you find that Essex had become very multicultural?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
But you think there's a good thing in some ways? But
Yeah, because there's a lot of work people don't want to do. You know, like I used to work at McDonald's, for instance, and it was basically all immigration people because no one wants to do those jobs anymore.
Okay, so you feel like immigrants take the jobs that no one else wants to do from the UK, and then they're actually
in certain aspects,
they're filling those gaps.
Oh yeah, otherwise who's going to serve you? You know,
What do you think of Nigel Farage?
I think he's brilliant. He's great. I just hope he stays grounded and doesn't end up like all the other politicians, all wrapped up in their own importance. And so far, he's keeping a lid on it. So that's my only hope, that he keeps grounded.
One last question I was going to ask you. How do you feel immigration has affected Dover specifically?
A lot of people that I speak to that are from Dover, it's pretty much the first thing they mention when they find out you're from Dover. It's like, oh, what's it like down there? Thinking it's like some sort of war zone. And I would say it's people go through Dover, so Dover doesn't really suffer with any sort of social tensions any more than any other place.
I get the impression you are more focused on fixing Britain and restoring Britain as opposed to really massively focusing on immigration. Would you say that's fair, or like?
I think like my mum was one of 9 children.
Yeah.
Right? So we're not really having that many children anymore. But if we were, we'd have just as many people here now as we've had, from the immigration. You know what I mean? The population would still be rising.
Yeah.
The problem is not the population rising. The problem is that we're not funding all of the stuff that we need to support the larger population. I'm not opposed to immigration in any way. Obviously, there's illegal immigration, which is like infiltration. The big problem there is not that it's making everybody poorer, but we're ending up with an underclass of people who have no documents, who have no ability to get a bank account, no ability to rent property. They're becoming a new kind of slave class, and that's just wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're being exploited to get here, and then when they get here, they've got no rights. This has to stop. To stop the boats, we need to have a sensible policy of immigration where it's all done officially and everything's documented, and they can come in and have proper full rights of citizens.
I don't want to get you in trouble here, but do you feel like Nigel Farage is a bit too extreme on immigration?
No, I think he's... Yeah, he probably is trying to get it. Maybe. Oh dear. Yeah, probably a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit, but in your defence, like what you were saying before, is like you agree with Nigel on like 99.
A lot of things.
Exactly.
We need to get Labour and Conservative. We need to give them a kick in. They're forming into just like one uniparty. They're like 2 rotting corpses that are propping each other up, and every time one of them gets elected, they just blame everything on the other party, and then they make things worse. You know what I mean? And it's just over and over. And I'm sick and tired of hearing them say, "Oh, we've got to fix broken Britain. We've got to fix broken Britain." So you lot broke it. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's like a stuck record going round and round. So what we're trying to do is have something, a new idea, a new policy.
And are you talking about illegal immigration? Are you talking about legal? Are you talking
illegal.
about? Okay, so what's your thoughts on legal immigration?
Well, if they're entitled, then they're entitled.
Okay, so you're actually not against legal immigration, you're just against illegal immigration. But what about asylum seeking?
Don't go along with it, no.
Why is that?
Because they're all on, come to England, it's a free place to come to, and it's a peaceful place, and you'll get paid for it.
Okay.
They come here and they get everything.
But aren't they trying to escape from wars and things like that?
Not necessarily, no. Come over here because they know that they'll get more than what we get. I used to live on a council estate, and you could walk around there of an evening and they'll have the curtains open, they'll be given the council house with a big massive telly, designer clothes on. I get on buses quite a lot, and they're looked after better than us. I'm on universal credit. And they get more than what I get.
Do they? How do you know that they get more than what you get?
If you see them walking along the road with 3 or 4 kids, and they're walking along with designer clothes on, it tells you something.
Right. Okay. Illegal immigrants in the UK cannot actually claim benefits. I believe that there are very occasional circumstances to protect human rights when someone is suffering from severe destitution or if a child's well-being is at risk, where there may be an exception. Asylum seekers do get free access to the NHS, £49.18 per person, and accommodation.
But if a person's asylum request is rejected, they lose access to their benefits. In some cases, if they appeal the rejection, they may continue to receive the support while the appeal is ongoing. And there is something called Section 4 support if someone has taken all the reasonable steps to leave the UK, but still hasn't been able to. But in short, illegal immigrants don't get benefits. This is a common misconception.
And I think within reform, we can have people who lean left and lean right, and it's not a problem, you know what I mean? We can be like a broad church, you know what I mean? So Nigel believes that the problem is just immigration. I think it's the underfunding of public services. And where we both do agree, definitely, is that illegal immigration is bad.
Yeah.
And it's causing a lot of problems. That needs to be stopped, and I'm very much with Nigel on that. Immigration itself, I think, is a good thing and is healthy for society.
I'm going to challenge you on something. You said that the Reform Party could capture people that are left or right, roughly. What I just think is interesting, I only just noticed this, is that the Reform Party has an arrow and it's pointing to the right. And I wonder whether that symbolises the right wing.
Yeah, there's a pyramid with an eye on top of it as well. You can read all.
Oh, okay, maybe I'm overreading. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not involved with designing any of this stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Maybe. I would say I'm kind of centre right.
Just on that.
Yeah.
Which hand is that?
That would be your left hand. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, you could make the argument. So maybe Reform Party is on the left. Who knows?
Well, we can have a plurality of voices.
I'll tell you what, we could just rotate it 90 degrees up. Up is a good way.
Yeah, up's a good way. We all like up.
Upwards.
Yeah, up
okay.
is good, you know, but the main political parties have voices within them that are both left and right. There's no rule that says we have to be fully one or fully the other.
Oat milk? What on earth's that when it's at home? All I want's proper bloody milk, not left-wing options, proper milk. What's wrong with me asking for that?
I consider myself centrist. I speak with and I have friends with on both sides. Respect left-wing arguments, some of them, and I respect some right-wing arguments.
Yeah.
I was blown away by how well Abu Dhabi worked. I can't let go of that. And I certainly would never support any movement that would diminish the rights of my own wife and daughter in this country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's where I stand.
An interesting fact is that Nigel Farage's wife is actually an immigrant.
Nigel Farage is not a racist. He's got a foreign national wife.
Just because you have a foreign national wife doesn't mean you can't be racist.
If you were to give people one reason why they should vote for Simon O'Donnell, what would you say?
It's Odell. Right?
Odell. My apologies.
Yeah. Why vote for me? Well, I guess because I actually want to make things better. I have empathy and I actually do care. People want to come to talk to me about something that the council can do for them. I really am going to actually try and make it happen. I don't know if I'm going to have the power to make it happen, but I'm certainly going to try. That in contrast to maybe other like career politicians who just don't care.
I think that's good, mate. Like to have empathy and to genuinely care about the people. Yeah. That is something that is very important.
I think you can tell as well. I've not got slick answers all worked out.
Sure.
I'm just telling you what I think and how I feel.
Because obviously it's a reform booth. Nigel Farage, for example, has had milkshakes thrown at him recently. Do you sometimes feel a little bit unsafe?
We've had people walking along here zig-heiling us and all sorts, calling us Nazis, saying we should be ashamed of ourselves. What do I have to be ashamed of? I've got an opinion. I don't like the main parties that exist right now, and I see a new party coming up, and mostly, 99% representing the same common sense stuff that I think is common sense. Why should I be ashamed of myself?
Thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me. Like, yeah, genuinely, I appreciate that.
Right.
So,
can I see that? The
Not the whole.
You wouldn't have anything to do with the Reform Party?
Wedging the door, isn't it?
And do you mind if I ask why you feel that you disagree with them?
Well, because basically I feel they are racist.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And what makes you feel that?
Legalised form.
Sorry?
In a legalised form.
Legalised
probably.
racism, you feel?
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
it. I've got to go get my shopping.
No problem,
now.
no problem.
All right.
Thank you very much for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Is the Reform Party racist? Well, let's look into it, starting with their leader. Led by Donkeys explains that Farage was allegedly referred to as having racist and neo-fascist views by a colleague that teaches at Dulwich College, that a colleague identified him with a group of others marching through a village shouting Hitler Youth songs. Nigel Farage would later deny these allegations, saying that he doesn't know any Hitler Youth songs in English or German. It is also acknowledged that Farage's former headmaster remembered Nigel as rude rather than racist, although the allegations levelled at Farage continue, with a reference theoretically made by Farage to a Jewish person that said that Farage would say Hitler was right and to gas them. When this was brought up by a reporter in an interview, Nigel Farage said that at school he had said things that were not necessarily racist and it depends how you define it.
Yes, of course, I said some ridiculous things that upset
Racist
them.
things.
Not necessarily racist things.
Not
but
necessarily racist.
Well, it depends how you define it.
Led by Donkeys also found that Nigel Farage sought the endorsement of Enoch Powell, a man that made a famous speech that included the words,
This country, in 15 or 20 years' time, the black man will have the whip hand over the white.
Nigel Farage would later refer to Barack Obama as a creature, would be endorsed by a former KKK leader, and rolled out a Breaking Point poster that was compared by some as being similar to Nazi propaganda.
Do you see that why people would regard this as xenophobic and racist? I mean, there you are in front of a poster full of brown faces on the move, coming into Europe with a big banner headline saying Breaking Point. The only white face has been obscured by text. Many people took that as deeply offensive. And I ask you again, do you want to take this opportunity to say sorry?
Well, the Schengen zone is at breaking point, that's undeniable. The picture was true, it wasn't doctored, but what I apologise for is the timing.
There are many other allegations presented about Farage. I will leave a link to the Led by Donkeys video in the description.
I was asked a couple of months ago, which world leader did I admire? And I said Vladimir Putin as an operator.
Now, in defence of Farage, he has been publicly critical of Tommy Robinson, the far-right activist who has said that he is opposed to Islam and committed various crimes. Farage has also been critical of Reform members that have said racist things. He specifically said, "The appalling sentiments expressed by some in these exchanges bear no relation to my own views, those of the vast majority of our supporters or Reform UK." This was after a canvasser for Reform UK suggested migrants trying to cross the channel be used for, quote, target practice.
This canvasser saying people seeking asylum should be shot.
Get the young recruits there, with guns on the beach, target practice, just shoot them.
Racist language was repeatedly used, here directed at the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak.
We got it. What's good is he?
And homophobia from Farage's inner circle.
You see that degenerate flag on the front bonnet? What the old Bill doing promoting that crap?
On 29th of June 2024, it was reported that Reform UK had to drop 3 of its candidates because they made offensive or racist comments. Mr Farage told the programme, "I want nothing to do with them." Lee Anderson is an MP for Reform UK, and he was reported to the police for saying that Islamists had got control of Mr Khan and that the capital had been given to extremists.
Are you ready to apologise?
No.
Why not?
Because apologise for what?
Because you implied that the Mayor of London is under the control of Islamists, and he isn't, is he? Well,
in one instance, when defending the Reform Party, Richard Tice has referred to the chairman of the party as being a Muslim himself.
What do you think that the effect of having too much illegal immigrants is?
We're no longer in the UK. We're abroad. They're all here.
Mm-hmm.
They're all here.
If you were to guess, what percentage of the population do you think is an immigrant?
What I read on the Google the other day was probably about 60%.
There are so many widespread misconceptions about immigration. As of the 2021 to 2022 census, 16% of the UK population was born abroad. Granted, this may have shifted slightly since then as the data isn't fully up to date, but we are nowhere near 60%. And this includes immigrants from places like America and Australia that are very culturally similar to the UK. 60% of the UK is immigrants, you think?
Yeah, especially London.
Yeah. So you live in Dover. Have you ever seen the boats coming in? Have you ever seen...
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gone on the bus and you can see them from the top of the cliffs.
Okay. How do you know it's the immigrants that are coming in?
Well, it can't be anyone else, can it, in a dinghy?
Oh, so you've seen people in a dinghy.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel when you see that?
Should get turned around and go back. France is half the trouble.
Why do you feel France is half the trouble?
They're letting through.
They're letting them through?
Yeah.
I think the UK government actually pays France to stop them. Do you feel like they're not doing their job?
Of course they're not.
You said something interesting earlier. What do you think about immigrants themselves? Like, do you think that they are bad people?
Not saying they're bad people, but they're...
You're doing a hand symbol for money?
Taking the money. This country is in poverty as it is. You look after your own before you look after immigrants. They come over here, they get arrested or whatever happens to them, and then they get everything they want. They might get put into a detention centre, they're given housing, they're given benefits, they get everything they want. More than what I've been broke, I've asked for loans from the government.
Yep.
Don't get it.
You don't get the loans. But do you feel like immigrants are to blame for that?
Yeah, of course it is.
Why? So why do you think immigrants are to blame for you not getting a loan?
Because they're draining the country of money.
How's your credit rating?
Fine.
Strange that they didn't give you a loan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was it the banks that wouldn't give you it?
I don't want a bank loan. I just asked the Social Security while I'm on Social Security for a loan. They said no.
Did they say why?
What do you need it for? I just said because I haven't got enough money. I'm not worried about a loan anyway, really. My lifestyle will change shortly. No, I don't hate the illegal immigrants because they're wives and kids and all that. I don't like to hear the fact that they drown in the channel, but it's not up to us to deal with it all.
Thank you for sharing your perspective. I appreciate that. And do you like Dover generally? Is it an okay place to live?
Yeah, it's alright.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your story, my friend.
That's quite alright.
I'm a Christian, so I like to see good sides to everything. But I'm aware there's two sides.
Sure.
But I like to think of the grass is half full instead of half empty. So I try and look at everything from a good perspective. It is hard sometimes, but you've got to try. Otherwise, you'll just be miserable the whole time. Who wants to be miserable, Okay.
No, that was really interesting. So thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It says Captain Matthew Webb, born 1848, swam from Dover to Calais in August 25, 1875, erected on 1910. So we've just gone to one of the beaches that is known for having dinghies land in it near Dover, and we're going to explore that beach just as it's getting dark. You can see a ship in the distance, but it's not a dinghy. Lovely to meet you, my friend. So we're just at one of the beaches, which I believe is one where the landings may actually happen. Have you ever seen anyone landing?
Yes,
you have.
It's a good place to land because of where Julius Caesar landed in 55 BC.
No way!
Around here we're very conscious that nearly every night there are people coming in, and usually they're met by the Home Office or else at sea. So I've quite often seen people, yes.
That's really fascinating. What happens when the Home Office finds them?
Well, I think they're taken away and they're asked who they are and where they've come from. I mean, the procedures take place. I mean, the people we tend to see are all the economic migrants. They're all in, ordinary clothes without luggage and with mobile telephones.
Okay.
And I've got friends who quite often find discarded passports higher up on the beach here.
Oh, you find discarded passports?
Yes, quite regularly.
That is interesting. Is that why you believe that they are economic migrants? Is there any other evidence we have as well?
Well, they're all young men of the age of sort of 19 to 23. All the ones I've ever seen have been that age group anyway.
Have you actually seen dinghies or anything?
Not a full one. Sometimes there are discarded ones floating offshore. So no, I haven't actually seen people in a boat. I think it probably takes place at night. I don't tend not to walk along here at night.
Oh, okay.
No, we see the people who've landed walking along, and looking rather lost sometimes.
Oh, really?
It's quite common.
What are your thoughts on it?
I think, the fact that we're a country that people want to come to, I suppose, is a good thing. But then there are such large communities of people already here. I find it actually rather... Well, I don't find it alarming because the people obviously coming are well behaved. Obviously they are, because they don't want to be... they want to be sent back.
That's good. That's interesting.
But of course they behave well.
Because otherwise they get
interest,
deported.
isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's very sad that the world is such that people, if they were actually people that were asylum seekers or something, it would be a slightly different matter, but they're not.
The Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford found that 93% of people arriving on small boats between 2018 and 2024 claimed asylum, and 3/4 of those requests where a decision had been made were actually successful.
We can't afford to have any more economic migration into the country. We've already got too many people. So I think it's a problem. But every political party has struggled with this. It's a very difficult thing. How do you deter people from coming?
So would your perspective be economic migration would be bad, but then asylum seeking would be fair enough?
There's asylum seeking and asylum seeking. It's a very intractable problem, and I'm glad I'm not a politician with the responsibility of having to sort it out in practice. Because, as that bishop said to Donald Trump the other day, you can sit in an armchair thinking, oh, we mustn't have too many people coming here. It's a very different thing when you actually encounter them and find out what they've experienced in their home countries.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. The people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms, wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants, and work the night shifts in hospitals. They may not be citizens, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land.
And you see the humanity of them.
And as a historian who's looked at, over a couple of thousand years, the effects of large-scale change of a population by mass immigration, I'm afraid it's not necessarily a good thing. Having people come who can fill very wealthy, well-paid jobs eventually probably benefits the country, and of course we need them for the NHS and people, but it's very different from people just arriving and then perhaps even not wanting to work.
Do you have any examples of, you said that as a historian that sometimes mass migration can be problematic?
I'm thinking of the Roman Empire.
Okay. And why do you feel like the Roman Empire was damaged by mass migration?
Well, it was destroyed by it culturally.
So I looked into the collapse of the Roman Empire because I wanted to know if immigration caused the Roman Empire to collapse. There was a refugee crisis which began in 376 AD. This was caused by a brutal barbarian force called the Huns conquering, subjugating and pillaging across Europe. This caused barbarian tribes, but most notably the Goths, to flee across the borders into the Roman Empire. Normally, the Roman Empire would break up the groups like this into smaller groups and distribute them amongst the empire to allow them to integrate, but this time the Romans didn't. Furthermore, the Romans treated the new Gothic people poorly, even exploiting them and taking their leaders hostage, which caused a riot. The Gothic people had never been forced to give up their weapons, and so the war that followed lasted 6 years, leaving destruction and chaos. But this crisis alone was among many other factors that caused the destruction of Rome. Rome had many poor leaders, a lot of which took power through hereditary means rather than based on merit, and poor leaders often presided across large crises across the empire. But some other issues seemed to contribute. The government printed too much currency, causing debasement. They also hiked spending and taxation, contributing to economic instability. This made it harder for them to pay their mercenaries, which the Romans were increasingly relying on due to the decline of their armies, and frustrated mercenaries alongside a weakened Roman military directly led to the fall of Rome, because it was the mercenaries that seized Rome in 467 AD. I'm not a historian, but it looks to me like there was lots of factors that caused the downfall of the Roman Empire. A poorly managed refugee crisis did play a part, but it was more of a symptom of a Rome that was already in decline. A declining economy, a declining military,
with vast, vast borders that needed to be defended and managed.
I mean, Western society has developed over the years with moral values that have taken, in the case of England, hundreds of years to develop a spirit of tolerance and political stability. Many of the people coming are not from that sort of environment, and of course, in small numbers, they would be absorbed and would form a normal part of our society. But having a too large a group who then live in communities that maintain their own way of life, which is very different from ours, can only lead eventually to the potentiality for conflict, I'm afraid. And I very much fear that may one day happen. So I think
you feel
that's
like
what one wants to avoid, is the development. And I mean, perhaps it's unfair to single these out, but if you take Albanian and Somali society, for example, where are very clan-based and very different from our development. This is if you have too many people like that, you're going to undermine the sense of community that we've enjoyed peacefully since the Civil War.
Would your opinion be then that immigration could be a good thing, but only if it's limited
Well, of course
too
it's
quickly?
a good thing. I mean, we are a country of immigrants. Germans from Anglo-Saxons and Jews.
So it's complicated. So immigration
It's very
can be good,
complicated.
but
Yes.
not
Yes.
too much too quickly, because
No.
that can risk
I mean,
culture.
immigration is good to a degree, and we need good people. Actually, we also need hard-working people to pick fruit and so on. But I mean, that's unfair. Only to bring people in for that and then throw them out again. Well, there you
Thank
are.
you very much.
That's a mouthful.
That
isn't
was really interesting to get your perspective. So thank
Yes.
you very much.
All right, that's right.
Cheers.
Pleasure.
As I sit here looking out into the sea, I try and imagine what it would feel like to be on a boat, on a rubber dinghy, in this cold, in the dark, the fear, just you're completely going into the unknown. I would imagine that almost none of these people have ever been to England ever before, and to be on a boat coming over here to make this your new home and starting with pretty much nothing. It must be a crazy thing to be experiencing. Emotionally, they must be. And obviously they'll be also just very much thinking of survival. A very crazy thing to have to go through. Let me show you the darkness.
That is French.
So we've been here for at least half an hour, not seen any boats. There is a light over there that's a little bit suspicious maybe, but we've not seen any rubber dinghies or anything that looks close to a rubber dinghy. That's the big ship, but that's massive. There's a light over there that's a little bit smaller that maybe could be something. Or it could be from France. It's so hard to tell.
But here's the thing, Britain is collapsing, the UK is miserable, and everyone is leaving. This is what I'm hearing on social media, so I wanted to investigate whether this is actually true. I went to the UK's most miserable city, according to the newspapers, to investigate. But you can click here to watch it.